Hello, this is Lynn at Linnovation.com, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm excited to introduce the latest product to the CTR2 radio controller family, CTR2 Quad. I'll refer to it as the Quad in this video. Before we get into the Quad, let me briefly explain the rebranding that recently occurred with the CTR2-Dial and CTR2-Flex hardware. Prior to 2026, I sold two radio controllers based on the M5 dial controller from M5 Stack. They were branded as the CTR2-Dial and the CTR2-Flex. Both were available with one knob or two knobs. The firmware in the CTR2-Dial unit supported Bluetooth and USB MIDI control of third-party apps like Marcus's Smart SDR for iOS and macOS. The firmware in the CTR2-Flex supported a direct Wi-Fi connection to the Flex radio. It doesn't require third-party apps to control the radio. In July of 2025, I decided to merge the two firmwares into a single firmware that could boot into either the CTR2-Dial or CTR2-Flex firmware. This firmware runs on both CTR2-Dial and CTR2-Flex hardware. While it works great, the naming convention caused a lot of confusion because the hardware and the firmware use the same names. At the start of 2026, I made the decision to rebrand the hardware. Because the CTR2-Dial and CTR2-Flex hardware were nearly identical, I chose to discontinue the CTR2-Dial hardware once I run out of parts to build them. The single knob CTR2-Flex was rebranded to CTR2-Uno, and the two-knob CTR2-Flex was rebranded as CTR2-Duo. Both are identical to the older CTR2-Flex hardware. CTR2 Quad with four knobs follows the same naming convention. The Quad is based on the M5 dial controller that's used in the Uno and Duo units. Like these other controllers, it can run the CTR2-Dial MIDI control firmware or the CTR2-Flex Wi-Fi control firmware. The four knobs, A, B, C, and D, are dual function. Each knob has a turn and a push and turn function. Knob functions can be assigned to any of the available dial functions. Each knob also has a built-in push button. These push buttons, along with the two discrete buttons, have both a short press and a long press function and can be assigned to any button action supported by the firmware. In addition, either discrete button can be assigned to be a dedicated push-to-talk button. I'll demonstrate the programming of the knobs and buttons later in this video. The Quad also has separate 3.5mm jacks that can be used for CW paddles and the external straight key and push-to-talk switches. As mentioned previously, the Quad can boot into either the CTR2-Dial or CTR2-Flex firmware. This is done in the settings menu in each firmware. Simply select the Run CTR2-Dial or CTR2-Flex option to reboot into that firmware. The basic operation of the Quad is the same as the older CTR2-Flex and CTR2-Dial hardware. You can refer to the videos describing these units. I'll put links to both videos in the description below. Version 2.04 firmware includes support for the Quad, plus several upgrades for all M5 dial-based controllers. For all users, a new ring control has been added. When enabled, you can use the gray ring on the M5 dial as a fine-tune control for the selected dial control. Simply touch the dial to turn it on, make your adjustment. For CTR2 firmware users, a new CTR2 configuration files page has been added to the Linnovation website under the Download tab. These files contain configurations for many of the third-party apps that CTR2-Dial can control. I'll include a link to that page below. For CTR2-Flex users, I've added support for 3 Wi-Fi profiles. This is handy for users that operate on several different Wi-Fi networks. With its additional controls, The Quad offers more flexibility than the Uno or Duo. Since I'm recording this on my Windows machine, I've connected the Quad directly to my Flex radio over Wi-Fi using CTR2-Flex firmware and have Smart SDR for Windows running. The controls are set to factory default. I'll demonstrate the control functions next. Turning knob A controls the selected dial function, in this case, AGC threshold. Pressing and turning knob A changes the volume. Unless the dial is set to frequency. In that case, pressing and turning knob A adjusts the frequency resolution or the frequency step. Short pressing knob A toggles the mute control. Long pressing knob A steps the bandwidth. Turning knob B adjusts the noise reduction level. And pressing and turning knob B adjusts the noise blinker level. Short pressing knob B toggles the noise reduction on and off, as you can see on the display here. Long pressing knob B toggles the noise blinker on/off. So those two controls work in concert with the adjustments. Turning knob C adjusts the receive increment tuning. And short pressing knob C enables or disables RIT. Pressing and turning knob C adjusts the transmitter increment frequency. Long pressing knob C toggles XIT on and off. Knob D has the large aluminum knob and uses a no detent encoder. It's primarily used for frequency adjustment. The other knobs on the Quad use detent encoders. If I press and turn knob D, I'll adjust the zoom on the pan adapter. If I short press knob D, I'll increment the band. Long pressing knob D decrements the band. There are two buttons to the left that are also programmed for functions. Button number 1 is programmed for push to talk. It doesn't have a long press function. If I press number 1, I'll key the radio. If I release it, I unkey. That can also be set up for latching activity where you push to turn it on and push to turn it off. Button number 2 is set up to increment or decrement the mode. Short pressing increments the mode. We're on lower sideband now. Upper sideband AM. If I long press it, I'll back up USB, LSB, CW. All of these knob and switch functions can be changed to fit your operation style. I'll go over that process next. The Quad's knob menu is a little different than the knob menu on the Uno and Duo. The knob menu on the Uno and Duo allows you to quickly pick from 6 to 12 dial functions to assign to each knob. The knob menu on the Quad is laid out the way the knobs are physically located on the display. There are two knob menu modes. One is used to set each knob's turn function. The other mode is used to set each knob's push and turn function. Touch the menu to switch between the two modes. Each knob function can be modified by pressing the knobs button to select it. Press it again to enable editing, and then turn any of the knobs to select the desired function. That knob has now been programmed for that function. The same is done on the push and turn. I select the knob, and then I adjust the knob that I want it to operate. Once it times out, I can push and turn that knob now to adjust that control. Button functions can be assigned to any of the knob switches or push buttons on the quad. Each switch can be set to operate up to 2 button functions. Mapping the button and push button switches is done in the buttons menu. To minimize radio changes, disconnect the quad from the control app or the radio before changing switch assignments. Once that's been done, select the buttons menu. If you look closely at the buttons menu, you can see the switches that are assigned to these buttons. Switch number 2 short press action is assigned to the mode up button. Switch number 2's long press action is assigned to the mode down button. The long press action has a tittle to the left of the switch number. Switches A and D are also assigned to button functions on this page. Since knob B is set up to control the noise reduction and noise blanker levels, let's go ahead and program the switch on knob B to control the noise reduction and noise blanker toggle buttons with short press and long press actions. First, we navigate to page 3, where these buttons are. Next, I press and hold the switch on knob B, and then I touch noise blanker toggle twice to step it through the short press and to the long press. Then I touch noise reduction toggle once. Now that I've done that, I've set switch B. Single press will do a noise reduction toggle. Long press will do a noise blanker toggle. To clear a button, I simply hold the switch down and touch the button. Note that if a button is assigned to a switch, you must remove that switch assignment before you can assign another switch to that button. I hope this video gives you a better understanding of what the new CTR2 quad offers. For those who already have an older CTR2-Dial or CTR2-Flex hardware unit, a quad upgrade kit is available to convert your unit to a quad. The upgrade kit includes everything you need to build a quad except the M5 dial. Just remove the M5 dial from your old unit, update its firmware to version 2.04, and mount it in the new enclosure. Attach the new PCB to the enclosure using the nuts and washers provided. Plug in the cables and mount the dual jack PCB to the back panel. No soldering is required. You can leave questions and comments below or contact me directly. My email can be found on qrz.com. If you want to be notified when I post new videos on CTR2 products, subscribe to this channel and click the bell button below. 73's KU7Q.